Hi, Salwa. I'm Sarah Donovan, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that you had. So, you were asked about English class as an opportunity to share personal stories. And what would I say to students or parents who might argue that it's not valuable or worth the time? Well, the bottom line is that everything is a story. And if we think about news articles, someone's telling a story. If we think about a speech, someone's telling a story. If we think about novels, poetry, all of those are telling a story in some way. And even if you want to go all the way back to Aristotle and talk about the rhetorical triangle, ethos, pathos, and logos, well, all three of those things are in everything that we write. And I think that there's just such value in teaching students how to use that sort of framework to tell a story. And they need to have an authority in the voice. They need to make sure that their voice is credible, and that's ethos. They need to make sure that the story follows logic, that they have details and facts and description that helps anyone understand what they're trying to communicate. And then, of course, one of the best ways to move hearts and minds is with pathos, with stories, with emotion, with truth. So, really, story is at the heart of all of the work that we do. Um, and it's valuable and worth our time because we need to know how people are moving our hearts and minds with stories, and then how we can move other people's hearts and minds with story. And then that's the other part where there's an ethical implication to how we do that. Are we doing that in a truthful way? Are we doing that in an honest way? And that's where sort of the fake news comes in. Your second question was about my experience growing up with 10 siblings and how that affected my view on education. Well, I think the bottom line to that is that you recognize that there is an individual, but there is also a group, and sometimes the individual can get lost in a group. There can be assumptions that we make about individuals because of the group that they come from. Also, making assumptions about how people are the same, or even making comparisons that are not helpful. Just thinking about my older sister, I was always kind of compared to as an athlete, intelligence, my appearance. And I don't think that those comparisons were always helpful, and we tend to make those. So I think just as an educator, I try to be always very conscious of assumptions that I make about students, and making, again, this is where the story comes in. If they are telling me their story, then they are the authors, they are the authority of their life, and um, I'm less apt to make assumptions about who they are. And your third question was, how have my educational and social concerns shifted from the time that I began teaching until today? And I would say, when I first started teaching, Paulo Freire's work, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and John Dewey's work with education experience had everything to do with um, my social concerns about making sure education was about experience, making sure that we were giving everyone access to education. I don't think at the time I knew what that meant. I think it was mostly about uh, curriculum and cool ideas, and kind of like waking up people with books and stories and things like that. And I thought it was sort of my job to illuminate these like parts of society for the students. But in all in all honesty, now I realize that it's the students who are doing that work, and I need to just be a better listener. So the classroom is a place for students to bring up the things that are of interest to them, write about the things that are of interest to them, read about the things that are of interest to them. And my job is to be curious and ask questions so that they can interrogate the things that they're learning and writing. So social justice, or my social concern, is more about living it in the practice and not talking about it or just having books that talk about it. So thanks for your three questions, Salwa.